When I first saw that Warner Brothers and Mattel had made a Barbie movie, I immediately wrote it off as yet another childish movie in a childish culture. And even though it is a movie about a children's toy, it manages to do something which modern movies have put to the wayside for a long time, which is that it takes a position on a social issue and it defends that position. The major thing worth addressing right off the hop is that it is obviously a film for women. Barbie was a beloved children's toy for little girls, and the women who played with them growing up have nostalgic thoughts about it. To pretend as though this film is not for women, made by women, to be delivered to women, would be disingenuous. The response from the manosphere has been nothing short of childish, something that you would expect from a little boy. If your response to women lampooning men and pointing out the patriarchal nature of the society is to burn Barbies in bins, then you're more or less confirming the critique that they have, which is, fundamentally, that the boys are not all right. That the boys need to take a little bit of time and figure out who they are, instead of defining themselves on how many women they can possess. Come on, men, how many times have we seen in a movie a woman get completely objectified and turned into a trophy? Like, we've seen Megan Fox in Transformers, we've seen these movies, they're right in front of your face and they're obvious. And so, while it's okay for men to objectify women and glorify the sexual relationship that we have towards them, we shouldn't expect women to do the same thing when they make their own media? I think it's ridiculous. The truth, more or less, is that men aren't happy that women are even talking about the role of women in a patriarchal society at all. They're not happy that there are self-aware women who understand that we exist in a patriarchy and who are attempting to articulate and create a critique of that very system. My advice to those men is that they grow up, stop acting like little boys, start seeing what women are saying about men, and maybe reflect on why it might be the case that women would think this way of how you act around them. Because that's what the best art ultimately does. It evokes the desire in the listener or the viewer to change their worldview. But if you're choosing to be stupid on purpose, then it has a dim effect. So far as a critique of the patriarchy goes, it isn't a perfect articulation, but they do manage to create in the mind's eye of the viewer an inversion effect, which is to say that Barbie Land is itself a matriarchy, and pointing out that this world is its opposite, a patriarchy. There's plenty of opportunity for the Barbie movie to say to the men that are watching, hey, if you feel like what is happening in Barbie world is unjust, then how do you think women feel living in this particular world? That ultimately what the Barbie movie is trying to sue for is equality. It's asking for men to think about what it is like to be a woman in a man's world, but instead being a man in a woman's world. And frankly, I think that it's just worth the effort to try to think about the world that you live in from a different perspective, instead of taking up the mantle of, essentially, girls are icky. I would, of course, be negligent in my duties as a Marxist if I didn't point out that the film does act as something of a cover for capitalism, given that the movie is produced by a capitalist company, Mattel, and a capitalist studio, Warner Brothers. This is to be expected. But if we are actually going to have more robust conversations about the nature of patriarchy, we are going to have to discuss how it intersects with capitalism at some point. This film, the Barbie movie, while doing a decent job of highlighting the nature of the patriarchy and giving women space to talk about what it is like to exist as a woman in a patriarchy, it definitely does so at the expense of the larger conversation of having a serious conversation about the nature of capitalism and the patriarchy. Even though it's good to see women articulate what it's like to live in a patriarchy and the contradictory nature of it, I actually feel like the film fired on all cylinders and was the most effective when it was discussing what it was to be a human being. I was absolutely floored when Barbie started talking about the nature of death and the nature of growing old and the nature of coming into womanhood and dealing with what it means to be a person who grows old and dies. That there were genuinely touching moments that were carefully done with care and love in order to tell the viewer, hey, you are going to grow old. You are going to lose your beauty. You are going to die. And all of that is perfectly fine. All of that is perfectly lovely. It's just part of the journey. So, just enjoy the ride. And so at the end of the day, Barbie manages to stand above its peers, appearing to be a children's film, but just simply taking advantage of the childish nature of our culture in order to help that culture grow up and grapple with larger and more serious issues. The best art is often controversial and stirs up the pot, and given what we're seeing in the manosphere about the Barbie movie, I would say that it's a more effective film than 99% of like the Marvel, Star Wars, Disney garbage that's been inundating our culture recently. That finally, Barbie is a film that takes a position on a social issue that exists in the world today and defends that position, for good or bad. And the simple act of doing that, while simultaneously pointing out the fragility of human existence and attempting to reveal something about the nature of being alive in the world, puts this film above all others in its category. It's an absolute must-watch. It has entered the annals of American culture. God bless you, women. If this is the stuff that women are going to produce, I say, down with the patriarchy. If you've made it here, be sure to subscribe, like the thing, send it around, tell people I exist. I do a live stream, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Tuesday through Thursday. Please come on in. If you're one of these manosphere guys that thinks everything I said is a bunch of crap, well, come on in and challenge me, right? If you're a feminist type who thinks everything I said was absolutely brilliant, but you'd like to know more about this whole capitalist thing, come on in. Let's have a discussion. We've got a wonderful community going on there that's attempting to banish all of the gaslighting that has infected our society about what's going on. Always remember, you are a quantum being walking around in quantum energy. The billionaire class is doing everything it can to ensure you never realize it, and you just stay the good little commodity they need you to be. Rebel, revolt, repent. Good luck. We're gonna need it.